One of the things I liked about the Trump campaign was the fact that he would talk about the forgotten man and the forgotten woman. That is not that.
It is absolutely not that. It's completely anti everything we heard from then candidate Trump. And I think literally everyone I know has been talking about this. They're not talking about what the president said about what he sees as the path forward in Afghanistan. They're not talking about this campaign rally that he has in Arizona tonight. They're talking about the swanky designer brands that the wife of a cabinet secretary tagged on Instagram and her back and forth with just an average woman who happened to comment on her Instagram. This is the textbook definition of a self-made controversy. I don't think it's going to necessarily go anywhere, but it's a little ridiculous.
Now, the president has defended hiring a very, very wealthy Commerce Secretary and Treasury Secretary, saying it's good to have people who are successful in charge of the money in this campaign, and maybe that's part of the package, Kevin.
Yeah, look, I don't want to overanalyze this either as like a larger statement about the Trump administration. I think it actually serves as a lesson for those who are going into public office and those who are family of those who go into public office. You come under an incredible amount of scrutiny. Everything you say, everything you post on social media can become potentially a story. That is unfair, but it is the reality that people have to realize. So I think the greater degree of discretion and restraint when you're on social media is the lesson for a lot of these family members.
If I could just say one point, but first of all, that's the president touching down in Yuma, Arizona. We're going to go to that in a minute. We should just say, and I agree with you because there is a kind of a concept in politics that like civilians are off limits. Right. But Ms. Linton is an actress. She's an author. She's a very public figure. Her Instagram account was open to everyone. Right. This isn't a matter of people like finding this on her private account.
And I'm still inclined to want to give her a pass because married to Steve Mnuchin, God knows she's probably suffered enough, but it's only been a few months.
Oh, man.
I'm kidding. But I will say this, though. First off, maybe she should just say that her Instagram account was hacked by the ghost of Leona Helmsley. Right. This is every Democrat's belief about what Republicans think about us or about the middle class or about working class. It's just, we always talk about the Trump base and how the president says I could shoot a guy on Fifth Avenue and not lose any voters. I can tell you from research I've seen, one of the few things that even the most ardent Trump supporters don't like is what you were talking about. When they learn that Wall Street bankers are actually running his economic policy, they don't like it. It's one of the few things that decouples those Trump supporters from him. It's not just that Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary, is a billionaire. It's the notion that Wall Street, which he attacked in the campaign, is in charge. And they're two Goldman Sachs guys, very talented people. Secretary Mnuchin, who I just joked about, and Gary Cohn, chairman of the National Economic Council, straight out of Goldman Sachs. They're able people, but his base doesn't like that at all. This could teach them that, right? They could focus on this because it's such a pop culture story.
One of the things that's interesting about the Bannon departure also is that Bannon was actually privately talking about there being a raise in taxes on the wealthiest, I think people who made more than $5 million a year. That was slapped down by a lot of Republicans. But one wonders if what the Breitbart folks call globalists, but if that if as you point out, if more and more of the president's base sees this woman as exemplifying what's really going on in the Trump White House, and the tax reform policy comes out from the House and the Senate, and it actually favors wealthy people, who knows what will happen?
That's a great question. And one thing that we were kind of talking about earlier is whether or not the president will come to this woman's defense. You know, she's someone who's married to a top cabinet official. She's kind of being pilloried in the press, made to look a little ridiculous, I'm sure, by her account. She's now apologized, of course, but the president has come out and defended people who are close to him before. Will he come out and say anything about this? It's probably one of the things that he shouldn't talk about this evening, but he does have this campaign rally scheduled in which he tends to give more off-the-cuff, unscripted analysis and comments of things. Does he touch this? And I'm not sure it's a great idea, but he certainly could.
I don't think he will. And I also don't, and I think a lot of what Paul said is right. But I don't think people view policy debates like tax reform through the lens of someone's Instagram account on a story like this. Instead, the president does have a very still unique ability to message to working class Americans about what their anxieties are in a very direct way, and he does so. When he does so, he does very well. The question is whether or not he can do it in a sustained manner so that he can continue to advance his economic agenda, not whether or not an incident like this is going to define it.
Everyone stick around. We're going to have more with the panel when we come back. President Trump just touched